My niece started a group chat called Why We Hate Aunt Sarah and accidentally added me. I stared at my phone, the notification glowing like a warning sign in the dark. My niece, Kaylee, all of 17 and sharp as a tack, had added me to a group chat. The name hit me like a slap. Why We Hate Aunt Sarah. My name, my own flesh and blood, my sister's kid, had created this digital dagger and, in a twist of cosmic irony, fumbled me right into it. My thumb hovered over the screen, torn between rage and curiosity. I didn't leave the chat. I didn't text back. I just sat there, heart pounding, scrolling through the messages that poured in like venom. It was a Saturday night, and I was alone in my apartment, a half-empty wine glass on the coffee table. I'm 38, single, no kids, with a decent job in marketing and a reputation as the fun aunt who shows up to family barbecues with homemade guac and bad karaoke. Or so I thought. The chat was a mix of Kaylee's friends and a couple of cousins, Lila, my brother's daughter, and even my nephew, Ethan, who's barely 15. The messages were brutal. Kaylee kicked it off. She's so fake, always acting like she's perfect. Lila chimed in. And that laugh, it's like a hyena. Ethan, the little traitor, added, she gave me a $20 gift card for my birthday. Cheap. My hands shook as I read, each word slicing deeper. Cheap? Fake? Me? I tried to piece it together. Kaylee and I had always been close, or at least I'd thought so. I'd taken her to her first concert, helped her with algebra homework, even covered for her when she snuck out last summer. Sure, we'd had a spat a few weeks ago when I called her out for ditching family dinner to hang with her boyfriend. But this was betrayal on a whole new level. The chat kept buzzing, oblivious to my presence. Someone posted a meme of a woman with a plastered-on smile, captioned, Sarah when she's pretending to care. I wanted to scream, to type a blistering defense, but I didn't. I just kept reading, each message peeling back a layer of my self-image I hadn't questioned in years. What stung most wasn't the insults, it was the specificity. They weren't just mad, they had receipts. Kaylee mentioned how I bragged about my promotion at Thanksgiving, like I was rubbing it in my sister's face. Lila said I always sided with the adults, treating the kids like they were invisible. Ethan complained I never asked about his soccer games, just sent him lame texts with thumbs-up emojis. I leaned back on my couch, the room spinning. Was I that oblivious? I thought I was the cool aunt, the one who got it. But here was a tribunal of teenagers, tearing me apart like I was the villain in their coming-of-age movie. I didn't sleep that night. I kept my phone on, the chat muted but open, as if staring at it would make sense of the mess. By morning, I was a wreck, puffy eyes, cold coffee, and a gnawing question. How did I miss this? I wanted to confront Kaylee, to demand answers, but something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was fear of what I'd hear. Instead, I took a screenshot of every message, saving them like evidence for a trial I wasn't sure I'd ever hold. I didn't know what to do next, but one thing was clear. I couldn't unsee this, and I wasn't going to let it slide. The days after the group chat discovery were a blur of self-doubt and quiet rage. I went through the motions, work meetings, grocery runs, a forced smile at a coworker's birthday lunch, but my mind was stuck on that glowing screen, those words carving holes in who I thought I was. I kept the chat muted, but I checked it obsessively, like picking at a scab. New messages trickled in, each one a fresh jab. Kaylee posted about how I ruined her last family party by lecturing her. Lila mocked my Instagram, calling my travel photos try hard. Ethan said I was basically a stranger who didn't know him. Every ping tightened the knot in my chest, a mix of betrayal and shame that made it hard to breathe. I started questioning everything. Was I fake? I'd always seen my enthusiasm as a strength, a way to lift people up, but now I wondered if it came off as performative. I replayed Thanksgiving in my head, trying to remember if I'd bragged about my promotion. I'd been excited, new title, better pay, a corner office. I'd shared it with the family, thinking they'd be proud, but Kaylee's words twisted it. She acted like mom's job was nothing. My sister, Jen, is a nurse, overworked and underpaid. Had I made her feel small? I didn't think so. But the doubt gnawed at me. And Lila's comment about siding with the adults, did I do that? I'd always tried to connect with the kids, but maybe I'd missed the mark. Too caught up in my own world. Socially, I pulled back. I canceled plans with friends, dodged my mom's calls, and skipped our usual Sunday family brunch. I couldn't face Jen or the kids, not with this secret burning a hole in my pocket. I imagined walking into brunch, seeing Kaylee's smirk, Lila's eye roll, Ethan's indifference. Would they know I'd seen the chat? Had they noticed I was in it? The paranoia was suffocating. I felt like an outsider in my own family, a pariah who'd been judged and sentenced without a trial. And at night, alone with my thoughts, I'd scroll through the screenshots, each one a reminder that I wasn't who I thought I was. The worst part was the loneliness. I've always been independent, happy with my own company. But this was different. This was isolation born of rejection. I wanted to talk to someone, to spill the whole messy story. But who? My best friend, Tara, would probably tell me to confront Kaylee and move on. But I wasn't ready for that. My mom would take it personally, turning it into a family crisis. And Jen, God, Jen, I couldn't tell her. What if she agreed with Kaylee? What if she'd been harboring the same resentment all along? The thought made my stomach churn, so I kept it to myself, bottling up the hurt until it felt like I'd crack under the pressure. I started losing confidence at work. Too, I'd always been the one with the big ideas, the loud laugh, the quick quip, but now, every time I spoke in a meeting, I heard Kaylee's voice, fake! I second-guessed my emails, my presentations, even my smile. Was I trying too hard? Was I annoying? My boss noticed, pulling me aside to ask if I was okay. I lied, said I was just tired, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. I wasn't convincing anyone, not even myself. The chat had stripped me bare, leaving a raw, uncertain version of Sarah I didn't recognize. I didn't know how to move forward, but I knew I couldn't stay like this, trapped in a cycle of doubt and resentment, haunted by a group chat I couldn't escape. I couldn't keep living in this fog, paralyzed by hurt and second-guessing. I needed answers, not just about why Kaylee started that chat, but about what I'd done, or failed to do, to make my own family see me this way. I decided to dig deeper, to investigate without tipping my hand. Confronting them outright felt too raw, too risky. I wanted the truth on my terms, so I turned into a detective in my own life, piecing together clues from the chat and my interactions with the kids. First, I went back to the screenshots, reading them with a clearer head. The accusations weren't random, they were specific, tied to moments I could trace. Kaylee's gripe about Thanksgiving wasn't just about my promotion. She'd mentioned me ignoring her when she tried to talk about her college plans. Lila's complaint about me siding with adults pointed to a family game night where I'd backed my brother's call on a rule, shutting her down. Ethan's stranger comments stung, but I realized I hadn't asked about his soccer season in months. Too busy with work to notice his games. These weren't just teen angst, they were moments where I'd dropped the ball. Maybe not maliciously, but enough to leave a mark. I started observing the chat more strategically, noting who said what and when. Kaylee was the ringleader, her messages sharp and biting, but Lila's were more personal, like she'd been nursing a grudge. Ethan's were sporadic, almost like he was just following along. I also noticed Kaylee's friends, two girls, Mia and Sophie, were the loudest cheerleaders, egging her on with memes and snark. Were they the real fuel behind this, or was Kaylee using the chat to vent something deeper? I needed context, so I did something I wasn't proud of. I checked their social media. Kaylee's Instagram was full of posts with her boyfriend, captioned with vague, moody quotes. Lila's was quieter, mostly art sketches, but her comments hinted at feeling overlooked. Ethan's was all soccer highlights and gaming clips. Nothing about family. It wasn't much, but it gave me a sense of their headspace. Next, I reached out indirectly. I texted Jen, asking casual questions about Kaylee's college applications, hoping to gauge if Jen sensed any tension. She replied with her usual tired warmth, saying Kaylee was stressed, but fine. No hint of resentment toward me, which was a relief but also confusing. I called my brother, Lila's dad, and asked about her art, mentioning I'd love to see her latest sketches. He said she'd been moody, feeling like nobody took her seriously. It matched the chat's vibe, but it wasn't enough to explain the venom. I even sent Ethan a text, asking about his next soccer game, hoping to test his stranger comment. His reply was a curt, "It's Saturday." No invite, no warmth. Each response was a puzzle piece, but the picture was still blurry. I also started reflecting on my own behavior, cross-referencing their complaints with my memories. Had I been dismissive, too focused on being the fun aunt to really listen? I pulled up old texts with Kaylee, scrolling back months. Our chats were mostly me sending goofy gifs or quick check-ins, rarely deep. I'd assumed she'd come to me if she needed to talk, but maybe I hadn't made space for that. The more I dug, the more I saw gaps, moments where I'd chosen easy over meaningful. It didn't excuse the chat, but it made me wonder if I'd been blind to their needs, too wrapped up in my own version of who I was to them. By the end of the week, I had a notebook full of notes, chat quotes, social media insights, and my own recollections. I wasn't ready to confront anyone, but I was building a case, not just against them, but for myself. I needed to know if this was all a misunderstanding, a teen rebellion gone too far, or if I'd genuinely failed them. The truth was out there, and I was determined to find it, even if it meant facing parts of myself I'd rather not see. My notebook was a map of grudges, half-truths, and my own blind spots. But it wasn't enough. I needed the full story, the why behind the chat, and I couldn't get it from screenshots or sneaky texts. I decided to confront Kaylee, not with anger, but with questions. I invited her to coffee, just the two of us, at a quiet cafe near her school. My heart raced as I waited, rehearsing what I'd say without sounding like I'd been spying. When she walked in, her usual confidence was there, but her eyes darted like she knew something was up. I started soft, asking about school, her boyfriend, college plans. She answered in short bursts, guarded. Then I leaned in, voice steady but firm. "Kaylee, I saw the group chat, the one you named Why We Hate Aunt Sarah. I was in it?" Her face froze, eyes wide, then dropped to her lap. No denial, no outburst, just silence. I pressed on. "I want to understand. Why? What did I do to make you feel this way?" She fidgeted, then mumbled, "It was stupid. I was mad." But I wasn't letting her off that easy. "Mad about what? Help me get it?" The truth spilled out in pieces. It started with Thanksgiving, when I talked up my promotion. Kaylee had been stressed about college applications, feeling like her future was a mess. And my excitement felt like a spotlight on her failures. She'd tried to tell me, but I'd brushed it off, too caught up in my own moment. That night, she vented to her friends, Mia and Sophie, who suggested the chat as a joke. It wasn't a joke for long. Lila joined because she felt I'd dismissed her art, especially after that game night when I'd sided with her dad. Ethan tagged along, less invested, but hurt I'd never shown up to his soccer games. The chat became their echo chamber, each grievance amplified by the group's momentum. I asked about Jen, terrified she was part of it. Kaylee swore her mom knew nothing, and I believed her. Jen's too busy to notice teenage drama. But Kaylee admitted something else. She'd kept the chat going because she was jealous. I had the life she wanted, freedom, a cool job, no one telling me what to do. She saw me as perfect, untouchable, and it made her feel small. The irony hit hard. I'd spent weeks thinking I was the failure, but to Kaylee, I was the standard she couldn't meet. We talked for hours, tears on both sides. I owned my mistakes, not listening, not showing up, assuming I was enough without trying harder. She apologized, but it wasn't neat or tidy. The hurt lingered, a bruise that wouldn't fade fast. I left the cafe with clarity but no plan, just a raw understanding of how we'd both misread each other. Back home, I sat with the truth and a growing fire in my gut. Kaylee's apology was real, but it didn't erase the weeks of pain, the public humiliation of that chat. I wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. I wanted them to feel what I'd felt, exposed, judged. So I planned my move. At the next family brunch, I'd bring my laptop, project the chat screenshots onto the living room TV, and let everyone see what Kaylee, Lila, and Ethan had done. I'd call them out, not to destroy them, but to make them own it. Jen, my brother, my parents, they'd all know. The kids would squirm, maybe cry, but they'd learn that words have weight. I'd been their punching bag long enough. Now it was my turn to hit back.